Hi everyone, today we'll be going through step by step one of the best processes for dual booting SteamOS and Windows on your Steam Deck. By the end of this video, with one press of the power button, we will be able to swap between both platforms, managed by our own easy to customize boot screen. Having Windows on the Steam Deck for the past year has allowed me to play games such as Fortnite, Destiny 2, Warzone 2, as well as many more. And all we need is either two microSD cards or two USB sticks that can connect to the Steam Deck's USB-C port either by themselves or through an external USB-C hub, so we can split our SteamOS partition and install Windows along with its drivers. Links to all of this will be provided in the description. Secondly, a Windows PC or laptop, so we can write our SteamOS and Windows images to the microSD or USB with a free program called Rufus, where we simply drag, drop and press start to write these images. And finally, it is recommended for your Steam Deck's internal drive to be at least 256GB or 512GB for the best results long term, especially when installing lots of big games. From the Steam Deck's home screen, we want to press the Steam button and switch to desktop mode. Select System Settings from the taskbar, locate the option called User, and we want to select Change Password by pressing the Steam and X buttons together, where we can bring up the keyboard and type pass twice for a faster installation. Choose Set Password as well as Leave Unchanged on the prompt that appears. Closing System Settings, we need to access the application launcher. Choose System and open a console window, which we'll be using in just a moment. Next, open your web browser, and with the keyboard, we want to type JLobu10 and press Enter. The first result shown we want to click on, and this will take us to a GitHub repository where, with just 4 lines of code, we can install a graphical user interface called the Refined GUI to allow us to manage our dual boot and its behaviour. Take the first line by dragging with R2 and the trackpad and selecting the highlighted field with L2 and copy. And we want to paste this into our console window. Press the A button for Enter and wait for the process to finish. This first line has created a folder within our Steam Deck's home directory that contains the necessary files for installation. Coming back to our web browser, we want to copy this second line and paste this into our console window. Pressing A to create a new line. Do the same again for the third line, copying, pasting and pressing Enter. With the fourth line, when pasting and pressing A, we will be prompted for our password that we set earlier. Open the keyboard, type this and press R2 to confirm. The installation of the Refined GUI will now begin, and depending on your internet connection, this should only take up to 2 minutes to complete. Once finished, we will be prompted to press Y on our keyboard to confirm we want a shortcut placed on the desktop. Press Y and R2 and go ahead and close the console window. Now on the desktop we will see the shortcut for the refined GUI. Access this for the first time and let's take a look at just how easy it is to get our dual boot set up the way we want it to. This is the background field where we can assign our own image, which must be in PNG file type. If we want to change from the default background, click Browse and navigate to wherever your desired image is located. Inside Steam Deck Refined, we can see another folder called Themes, which contains 7 sample backgrounds to choose from, all in 1280 by 800 in size. Let's choose one by selecting and pressing Open. The next field is the default boot option, where SteamOS is selected by default. If you don't make a choice of operating system when you first turn on the Steam Deck, then you will boot into the OS selected here. Boot options 1 and 2 have SteamOS and Windows selected by default for our dual boot. Unless you wish to change these for your own use case, then I recommend leaving these as they are. To change the icon for SteamOS that appears, click Browse from our Boot Option 1 icon field. Navigate once to the Steam Deck Refined folder and choose the Icons folder. In here, you will see a wide range of available icons. So, for SteamOS, I'll be choosing this icon here by double clicking, and the same again for Boot Option 2, where I will be choosing the Windows 11 icon. Boot options 3 and 4 are available if you wish to attempt to triple and quad boot the Steam Deck. I have another video which goes over this linked in the description if you wish to explore this in greater detail. Finally, we have the timeout field, which by default is set to 5 seconds. When you turn on the Steam Deck and see your boot screen, if no input is detected via the trackpad or D-pad, then your default boot option will begin to load. You can increase this timeout to a number higher than 5 if you wish. Accessing the About icon will allow us to check for updates for the refined GUI, and also available is a link to JLoBoot10's GitHub page alongside a link to this video. Now, with the quick tour of the refined GUI out the way, let's select Install Refined from the bottom, where we will be prompted for our password. Using the Steam keyboard, type this in and press Enter. You will see a progress bar briefly appear, and once this has disappeared, we won't need to select this option again. The final part is important for whenever you make changes to the fields above. We must always press Create Config once, followed by Install Config, where we will be prompted for our password each time. Once entered, we will see a confirmation message informing us that all of our changes were copied successfully, and from here we can go ahead and restart the Steam Deck to see our custom boot screen, which as of right now only boots SteamOS. With the Steam Deck powered off, insert your SteamOS recovery microSD card or USB and USB-C adapter. Load your recovery USB by holding volume down and pressing power once to access the boot menu. Select your USB and wait for the recovery image to load. I have noticed that using a microSD card is much faster and reliable than using a standard USB 3 stick, and on USB this can take up to 10 minutes to load if you are doing this for the first time, but will become faster on subsequent boots. On the recovery desktop, open the application launcher in the bottom left, choose Utilities and KDE Partition Manager. In here, we want to access our internal drive, which will be listed on the left-hand side. Once selected, we will see our partition table from SteamOS. Scrolling down the list, we will see ext4 Home. This is where SteamOS is installed and where we want to split the partition for our Windows installation. We want to right-click on this partition with L2 and select Resize Move. From here, you will see a box appear with a slider for resizing the home partition. By comparing size and free space after, we can slide this bar to a place that is best suited to what we want the total size of our operating system installations to be. Once you have decided on the size you want between both operating systems, choose OK, and underneath ext4 Home, an unknown partition has appeared in placeholder. Right-click on this partition and select New. In this window, we want to select the file system drop-down and choose NTFS and choose OK. Now we must press Apply in the top left corner to perform these pending operations we have just queued. Once the tasks are completed, press OK and KDE Partition Manager will refresh the partition table. You can see we have our SteamOS image reduced to our own specifications and our new NTFS partition ready for Windows. Let's go ahead and shut down the Steam Deck, removing our SteamOS recovery SD and inserting our Windows 11 USB. Now we are ready to install Windows. Hold volume down and power to access the boot menu and choose our Windows USB. The Windows setup will take around a minute to load, so in that time we want to rotate our deck portrait so we can perform the installation steps. Now we are ready. With the touchscreen, choose Install Windows and accept any license agreements that appear. Choose I don't have a product key if the option appears and that you just want to install Windows. Eventually, you will arrive at the partition table for where we will select the drive where we want to install Windows. If we scroll to the very bottom, we will see our partition that we created earlier. Because we chose NTFS and pre-formatted this, we can simply go ahead and select this partition and press Next. Windows will now be installed, and for me, this process took 3 to 4 minutes to complete before the Windows setup restarted the Steam Deck and launched the final phase of the installation. Once your Steam Deck has restarted, you will be required to choose your region, keyboard layout, and entering your username. Perform all of these steps, and for the following prompts, I would recommend choosing No and turning any toggles off to reduce some of the features running on Windows. Windows will finish up the installation and at the end load into a portrait view of our desktop. Here we immediately want to either right click or long hold on the screen and choose Display Settings, scrolling down to Orientation and selecting Landscape so we can have our Steam Deck the right way round in Windows. The next step, now that Windows is installed on our Steam Deck, is to install all of the Steam Deck drivers for Windows. You can download these directly from Valve's website, the latest AMD graphics, SD card, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and sound drivers, which we will need to make sure these are all set up correctly. This link, along with everything else, is listed in the description. I would strongly suggest downloading all the zip drivers onto your Windows PC or laptop and extracting them there into individual folders before transferring to a new folder created on your Windows USB. This is to save time, as extracting these zip files on the Steam Deck can take much longer as opposed to your computer. Begin by choosing the folder called GFX driver and double-clicking Setup. With all new Windows installations, we are prompted to choose yes or no if we want to run the setup. Choose Change when these notifications appear to make the control settings window appear, and drag the slider to the very bottom. Hit OK and Yes. This will stop the dialog prompts from appearing every time we want to run any application. Choose Setup again to start the graphics driver setup, and once loaded, select Install. Halfway through the AMD setup, you will need to press Install again in a smaller box. Go ahead and wait for the process to finish. Once completed, press back and install the SD card driver found in the BayHub folder. Choose Setup.exe, select Next, wait for this to finish, and choose Restart Later. Go back and choose the Bluetooth folder called RT Blue. In here, we want to double click the file called installdriver.cmd. This will instantly install the Bluetooth driver, so you can connect wireless peripherals through Windows if required. Next, we want to install the Wi-Fi driver inside the RT-LAN folder. Go into here and double click setup.exe. This will install automatically, and we can then click Finish. Lastly, we want to navigate to the two folders which will enable our sound to work. These are called CS35141 and NAU88L21. Inside both of these folders will be two INF files that you must right click on and select Install. And now the drivers are all installed, we need to perform one last task before we are finished. At this stage, when we restart Windows, we will boot back into Windows instead of our boot screen. To make it so that this never happens again, in the description of this video is a batch file called Dual Boot Fix. What this file does is create a scheduled task which runs whenever Windows is accessed, and will move our boot screen to the very top of the boot list. So, access this folder, and we want to right click on the file called Setup Refind Windows Run as Admin, and as the name suggests, we want to right click and select Run as Administrator. And that's it. Your Steam Deck is now dual booted and protected from system updates via SteamOS and Windows. Before we end the video, I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to JLoBoo10 for creating the refined GUI and taking my feedback from extensive testing on board towards the development of this incredible Steam Deck dual booting tool. Also, a huge shout out and thank you to BaldSeaLion for creating their dual boot batch file, allowing us to get our boot screen back to the top of the EFI list whenever Windows is booted. As always, if you have any questions, please post a comment down below or join the DeckWizard Discord server, and I will try my best to answer you. Please give this video a like, and if you haven't already, Subscribe to the channel to be made aware of when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.